side, if your screen after adding a display, go down to Windows and search for Graphic Settings, then click into Graphic Settings. Here, select Desktop App and then click on Browse. Navigate to where OBS is on your computer. Here's the typical location where you'll find it. Next, click on the OBS 64EXE. Once you add it, you should see a new option appear within Graphic Settings. Click on Options and you can toggle between power saving or high performance. Once you change the selection, try restarting OBS to see if your display shows up. We now have our desktop appearing here. If you're recording or streaming and you would like to include audio, we also need to add a source for your microphone or for your system audio. Let's click once again under Sources on the plus icon, and at the very top of this list, there's the option for Audio Input Capture. Let's click on this. For this one, I want this to be my microphone, so I'm going to rename it to microphone. Next, let's click on OK. On the Properties screen, I can choose the device, and I'm going to select my microphone. Next, let's click on OK. I can now see my microphone in the audio mixer, and it is working. Here I can see that the audio is coming through. If I also want to record my system sound, I also need to add another source for that. Let's go down once again to the plus icon, and this time let's go up to the Audio Output Capture. For this, I'm going to rename it System Sound. Next, let's click on OK. Within Properties, I can choose the device that I want to capture the sound from, and I'm going to select speakers or headphones and then click on OK. Now that I've added system sound, I can see both my microphone and the system sound. Now that I've added a few different sources, you could start to see the importance of making sure you give the source an easy to understand name. Especially when you start getting many different items showing up in this list, you want to know what the different items are. Next, let's focus our attention over on the audio mixer. Here, once again, we can see all of the different audio sources. You can also drag here to adjust the levels. You can also mute or unmute the source, and you have some advanced audio properties here. To the right of the audio mixer, you also have scene transitions, and later on, once we add another scene, we'll come back to what you can do with this. But before we do that, let's start recording something so we can just see how OBS even works. Over on the right-hand side, we have a variety of different controls. At this point, we can start streaming to our favorite streaming service. We could also kick off a recording, and in a moment, we'll do this. We could also start our virtual camera, and there's something called studio mode. We'll come back to this a little later to see what you can do with this. Also, you can jump into settings or exit the application. For now, though, let's simply kick off a basic recording. I've now started my recording, and you can see I'm now recording my screen. So all of this will be captured. While I'm recording, I can also click on this icon to the right of stop recording, and that'll pause my recording. Once I'm ready to record again, I can unpause, and that'll once again resume the recording. Once I'm all done, I can click on stop recording. Congratulations, we have finished our first recording. If you want to watch your recording, go up to the file menu up on top and then click on the option that says Show Recordings. This will open up File Explorer, and here I can see a recording. Let's click on this to see how it turned out. I've now started my recording, and you can see I'm now recording Now that recording looks great. The one thing you'll notice though is this is an MKV file, and an MKV file, you typically can't open that in editing software, and it's not as easy to share with others. To be able to work with this file, go up to the File menu and then click on Remux Recordings. You can click on the ellipses over here and then select the file that we just recorded. You can then click on Open, and then once you're ready to remux, click on this button that says Remux. The recording has been remuxed. Let's click on OK and then close this window. If we go back to Show Recordings in the File menu, you'll now see that we have an MP4 file. You can very easily work with this in whatever editing software that you want. Now you might be wondering, what if I just want to record directly to an MP4? That's kind of a pain to record something and then to have to go to Remux. To be able to change the default, you can go up to the File menu, then click on Settings, and then let's click on Output. Within Output, under the recording category, you can change the default recording format. And here, look, you could change it to MP4. Of course, there's a reason why OBS sets MKV as the default. Let's say that maybe you're recording a 2-hour lecture. With MP4, if let's say halfway through the lecture your computer crashes, well, you're going to lose every single thing that you recorded up to that point. With MKV, on the other hand, if your computer crashed, let's say halfway through this lecture, everything up to the point of the crash would still be saved. So in a sense, you can think of MKV as an insurance policy. Sure, it takes an extra step where you have to go to File and Remux, but that way you have a little bit extra security. Now, of course, if you're recording something short, maybe it's just a minute or two, feel free to go with MP4 because the risk of having a failure is probably pretty low. So whichever one you prefer, feel free to set that here. I'm going to leave mine on MKV. One of the things that you might have noticed in the screen recording is at the very beginning of the screen recording, I click on Start Recording and then I can minimize OBS. At the very end of the recording, I would have to open OBS again and then click on Stop Recording. If I don't want to show OBS at all, well, I could use editing software to cut out the beginning and the end, or alternatively, I can use OBS to set shortcut keys to both start and stop the recording. To set a shortcut key within OBS, go up to the File menu and then let's click on Settings. Within Settings, over on the left-hand side, click on Hotkeys. Within Hotkeys, you can set a shortcut key to start the recording and to stop the recording. Here, for example, I'll press Alt F2 to start, and then I could also press Alt F2 to stop. So this way I could toggle that key combination to both start and then to stop the recording. You could also set shortcut keys for pretty much any action that you could take in OBS. Here too, you could pause or unpause the recording, and there are many others. Now that you know the basics of how to use OBS to capture your display, next I want to show you some of the more advanced uses of OBS. And now I want to show you how you can build a more complex scene. I want to use the scene that we just created as the base. Let's right click on this scene and then let's click on Duplicate. I'm going to call this scene Desktop Capture with Webcam. Once you're done typing in the scene name, click on OK. I now have a second scene and I have all the same sources. I want to add a webcam, so let's click on the plus icon, and a webcam is a video capture device. Let's select this option. Next, I could give it a name. I'll stick with the default name of video capture device and then click on OK. This opens up my webcam properties and all the defaults look good. Next, I'll click on OK. My webcam image is now on the screen, but it is massive compared to the size of my desktop. To adjust this, down within Sources, click on your video capture device, and then you'll see a red rectangle appear around that source. Now I can click on the corner to adjust the size. If I want to modify the position, I can click on the item and then I could drag it on my screen. I'll continue adjusting the size just to make it smaller, and here once again by clicking on the item I can reposition it. Now I just want this to be a small rectangle in the bottom right hand corner of my screen, so I'll move it down there. That's looking a lot better now. Along with being able to simply reposition and also resize my webcam image, I can do the same for the desktop image that appears here. Just like before within the sources list, I'm going to click on Display Capture. Here I see a red rectangle appear around my display, and just like with the webcam image, I can reposition my desktop, or I could adjust the size if I want. Now once again, this entire black area is what I'll be recording, so here in this case I want to record my desktop, so I'll leave it so it uses up the full space. With my webcam image, you'll notice that there's a lot of space on both sides of me, and that takes away from being able to see the desktop behind me. So I want to crop my image a little bit, and luckily that's pretty easy to do. Once again, I'll make sure that I select my video capture device, and then I see this red rectangle again that appears around the image. I can press the Alt key and then click on this red rectangle and I can drag it in, and that'll essentially crop the image. Here again, I'll do it on the other side and just tighten it up a little bit around my face. Now you see a little bit of a tighter image and you can see more of the desktop behind me. Now just like I cropped my video, I can crop any one of my sources. So even here with my desktop, let's say I only want to record a certain area of my screen, I can do that using cropping. Here I'll select the display capture, and just like I did with the video, I can click on this red border, press the Alt key, and then I could drag this in, and that'll only record this specific area of my screen. Now of course I want to record my whole screen, so I'll press the Alt key and then drag back out, and that'll re-add my entire screen. My scene is really starting to come together, but I do want to add a few more sources. Now, I can click on the plus icon down below to add additional sources, or I could also drag and drop items directly into OBS. Here I have a logo sitting on my desktop. This is a PNG file. I can simply click on it and then drag it over onto my scene. Here now I see my logo file appears, and it's for the Kevin Cookie Company. Now, just like with all the other items, I have this red rectangle around the item, and I could resize my logo. Now I want to position this right above my video image. Now I could click on my video and I could reposition this as well. So now that's looking pretty good. I have my logo and I have my video. I also want to include a border around my video. Right now it seems like it's just kind of hanging there over the background. To add a border, let's go down to sources and I'll click on the plus icon. For this, I want to add a color source. Let's click on that. I'll leave the default name and then click on OK. This opens up properties for color source. I'm going to move this over a little and I want to use the same blue that appears in my logo. Here I could click on select color and I want to pick a screen color. Let's click on that. Over here I can hover over my logo and I'll take this blue color. Next, let's click on OK. So I now have this color source. Let's click on OK there, and now I see a rectangle with that color source. I'm going to adjust the size of this and I'll put it right over my video. Now you'll see that the video sits in back of the color source. I want the color source to be a border for my video, so I want it in back of my video source. Down here within sources, I can see all the different sources within the scene. Now the item at the top is the topmost layer. The item at the bottom is the bottommost layer. Now I want my color source to appear behind my video capture device, so I'll simply click on this item and then drag and drop it behind the video device. I could also
Now,
use
if you
these
want
up
to
and down arrows
practice,
to shift the layers of the different items. So here now you see I have this color source behind my video capture device. Of course, the border is pretty thick right now, so when I have color source selected, I can reposition this, and just like I did before, I can use the Alt key to crop the size of this color source. So here I'll do it so it's a nice border around my video, and that looks pretty good now. Now as I'm working on my scene, I might want to make some sources visible and some sources not visible. So let's say I wanted to work on the desktop and having my video here is somewhat distracting. I can go down here and there's an eye icon. When I click on that, that'll hide that source, so I could hide all these topmost items. I could simply toggle that again to re-show those different items. Now let's say I'm all done positioning my video and the logo. I might want to lock those items so I don't disrupt their current position. So I've now locked those 3 items, and I can move my desktop around and I don't have to worry about mistakenly clicking on my logo or the video, because those are now locked in that position. Now that I've locked the position, this is one unit right here. So I have the logo, the video, the color source. I really view this as a group. Now I can click on the sources and I'll press the Shift key to select these 3 items. So the logo, the video, and the border. I can now right click on this and I could group the selected items. Let's try this. I'm going to call this group logo and video. Now I'll click on enter and I can collapse this group, so it helps clean up my list of sources, and this way I know when I select this item I can show that whole group or I can hide the whole group, so it helps organize my sources a little bit better. My new scene is all together now, and at this point I can now start streaming, I can start recording, I can start my virtual camera, so I could basically go live with this. Now let's say that maybe I have my webcam up here, but then I want to hide it because maybe I want people to focus on the full screen and not my face. Well, over here on the left hand side I can click on the other scene, and this will shift the scene back to just my full desktop. Now let's say I'm done explaining the whole desktop. I can now click on my scene and that'll show me again here in the bottom right hand corner. Now one of the problems is when I click on these different scenes, it's a little bit of a hard cut. What if I want to have more of a transition? Well, that brings us to this category here called scene transitions. Right now it's set to simply cut, but I have all these other transitions that I can set. Let's pick the swipe transition instead. So I could select this, I'll click on OK for that name. Here I could preview preview what the transition looks like. That looks good. Let's click on OK. I now have a swipe transition. So when I'm streaming, when I'm recording, I can now click on the other scene, and now you see it swipes away. If I want to go back to my webcam image now, I can click on that scene, and once again, that also swipes it away. So here I could choose from many different transitions, and I could customize the transitions to make my recording or my stream look better. Now, just like before, I don't want to have to open up OBS to shift between my scenes. Instead, here too, I can also set shortcut keys. If I go to the top left-hand corner, once again, let's click on File, click into Settings, and then go to Hotkeys. Within this list, I see my different scene names. Here's the desktop capture with webcam, and I see my scene. I can set a shortcut key to switch to this scene. For example, I'll set F2 to switch to the desktop with webcam, and then for my full desktop, I'll set that to Alt 3. Next, I'll click on Apply, and then OK. Back within the main screen here, now if I want to jump between scenes, I'll press Alt F3, that jumps back to my desktop, and Alt F2, and that jumps back to my scene with the webcam. So here too, I could set shortcut keys to kick off my recording, and I could set shortcut keys to switch my scenes. Now that we've looked at how you can seamlessly switch between scenes, I want to show you some additional functionality related to sources. Down here within sources, when you select one of your sources, you'll see some buttons that appear right up here. Here you could return to your properties, and you could also jump into filters. I'm going to select my webcam image, and then let's see what filters we have. Within filters, up in the top left-hand corner, I have audio and video filters, and then down below I have some effect filters. Let's first take a look at some of the audio filters. Here you have all sorts of different audio filters that you could apply, for instance, the gain, the limiter. One of the interesting ones is you have noise suppression. So let's say that you're streaming or you're recording in a louder environment. Maybe you have a dog barking, or maybe the landscapers are outside. You can use noise suppression to cut all that out. Down below, I also have effect filters. Let's click on that to see what we could do. I could apply different LUTs. I could use a chroma key. Let's say I have a green screen in back of me and I want to remove it. I could use a chroma key for that. I could correct the color. Here I could crop my video here too, and you could even set something up to scroll. So let's say you inserted text into your scene, you could have that scroll across your screen. So there are all sorts of different filters that you could play with. It's definitely worth some time looking in here and seeing what you can do. Along with being able to apply filters to individual sources, I could also transform a source. So what does that mean? Well, here down below, I'll click on the group that I created with the logo in the video. When I right click on this, there's the option for transform. With transform, I could rotate items, I could flip items, or I could also center them on the screen. Here, I'll click on center to screen, and here you see that my logo and webcam jumps to the center. I'll move it back to the corner, but here with transform, I could very quickly make changes to my different sources. We've been looking at many of the different ways you can take advantage of the power of OBS, but I also want to show you how you can make the experience your own. Now, so far we've been using the user interface as it comes out of the box. You can adjust things to meet your needs. For instance, I could click on controls and I could drag it out of the experience. Or maybe I want to put scene transitions over on the left-hand side. I can move these different items wherever I want. Now, let's say you move a bunch of things and you want to reset it. Well, you could simply right-click on an item and then click on Reset UI, and that'll return it back to the original state. Along with being able to customize the user interface, you can also set up multiple profiles. Up here, there's a menu for profiles. So what is a profile? Well, let's say you go into File Settings and you go through and you make a whole bunch of modifications to these settings. You can set up a profile to store all of those settings. So maybe you have one profile for streaming, and then you have a different profile with a different set of settings for recording. You can then very quickly jump back and forth between those profiles. Another way that you can customize the experience is using something called scene collections. And what is a scene collection? Well, the easiest way to describe it is it's a group of scenes. So just like a scene has multiple sources under it, a scene collection can have multiple scenes under it. So it's basically one level up from scenes. Probably the easiest way is to simply show. I'll click on scene collections and I'll jump to my scene collection that I use for my YouTube channel. So here you see I have an entirely new set of scenes and then sources under those scenes. If I want to jump back to my other scene collection, I can simply click here, and now you see the scenes that we created together. We've covered quite a bit of functionality today, but the last thing I want to touch on is how you can use Studio Mode. Over on the right hand side, there's an option called Studio Mode under the controls, and you could use this when you're streaming or when you're recording. Let's click into this to see what we can do. Within Studio Mode, you see a preview over on the left-hand side, and then I see the program over on the right-hand side. The easiest way to think of what program means is when you're streaming or when you're recording, this is what's being recorded or this is what's being streamed. Over on the left-hand side, we see a preview. Now with the preview, I can move different items around. So I could click on my desktop, I could adjust the size. So maybe I want to modify things. Now anything I'm doing over on the left, that's not being recorded and it's not being streamed. So I can make adjustments over on the left, and let's say that, while I'm streaming, I want to change my view to look like this. I can then click on transition, and this now goes live out to my audience where I'm streaming or when I'm recording. Alright, well that was a quick look at how you can get started using OBS. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. To see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see me cover any other topics, leave a comment down below and I'll add it to my list of videos to create. Alright, well that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time. Bye. Hi everyone, Kevin here. Today I want to show you how you can both get and also use OBS. First off, what is OBS? It's an extremely powerful and also versatile screen recorder, and you could